Halloween in the small town of Ravenbrook always carried a strange kind of beauty. Orange lights glowing across cracked sidewalks, the soft crunch of leaves and the laughter of children echoing through the cold October wind. But this year, something felt different. Josh, Mia, Eric, and Tyler were finishing their last round of trick-or-treating. Their pillowcases were half full, their breath visible in the air, and their flashlights dimming. They'd hit every house, except one, the old Turner house. Everyone knew the stories, strange noises, faces in the windows, a family that disappeared years ago. The kind of place parents warned kids to avoid, but at the very end of Willow Lane, for the first time in 15 years, the porch light was on. A single pumpkin glowed beside the door. Eric smirked behind his ghost mask. "You guys seriously scared? It's just a house," Mia shivered. "Then you knock?" He did. 3 times. The sound echoed through the wooden frame, followed by silence. Then, slowly, the front door creaked open just enough to reveal a flicker of candlelight inside. Josh hesitated. Maybe someone actually moved in. "Trick or treat," Eric shouted, stepping onto the porch. The others followed. The air inside was heavy, cold, and smelled faintly of burnt wax. The walls were covered in old photographs, families in Halloween costumes dating back decades. Their eyes were blacked out. Tyler frowned. "Creepy." The door slammed shut behind them. Mia screamed, spinning around. The knob wouldn't move. The windows were painted black from the inside. Josh's flashlight flickered, landing on something written across the nearest wall in what looked like red paint, or maybe not paint at all. "Welcome back." Mia's voice trembled. "Back? We've never been here before." Eric tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. "Someone's messing with us." Then they heard it, a faint whisper coming from deeper inside the house. A voice soft as dust, saying just 2 words. "Come in." Tyler's flashlight swung toward the hallway. A shape moved there, tall, slow, and human-shaped, but wrong. It seemed to stretch and twist when the light touched it. Josh's heart pounded. "We're leaving, now." They turned toward the door, locked tight. Every window, every exit sealed. The whisper came again, closer now, from right behind them. "You shouldn't have come back." Josh turned toward the sound and froze. On the far wall hung a photograph, dated October 31st, 1995. 4 kids stood on the same porch, dressed in the same costumes they wore tonight. Same colors, same masks, same faces. Mia's voice cracked. That's us." Before anyone could speak again, the pumpkin on the porch flickered and went out. The last thing they heard before the house went dark was the sound of something breathing. Softly, just inches away, followed by a child's whisper. "Ready to play again?" The air inside the Turner house had grown heavy, almost thick enough to breathe in. Every exhale felt colder than the last. Josh gripped the flashlight so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Somewhere behind him, Mia whispered his name, her voice trembling like the flame of a dying candle. "Don't move," he whispered. But the whisper in the dark moved closer, soft, rhythmic, like a child's lullaby hummed through broken glass. Something shuffled upstairs. Slow footsteps. Bare feet. Tyler took a shaky step forward. "There's someone up there." "No," Josh said quietly. "There isn't." But Tyler was already climbing. The stairs creaked under his weight, one at a time, echoing through the hollow house. When he reached the top, the humming stopped. Then came a sound. A single short scream, cut off halfway through. "Tyler!" Mia cried, running toward the staircase. Josh pulled her back. "Don't," he hissed. "It's trying to pull us apart." From the shadows, Eric's voice cracked. "What is this place? Why does it know us?" Josh turned the flashlight toward the photographs again. The one from 1995 was gone. In its place, a new photo hung crookedly on the wall. 4 children on the same porch. This time, their eyes weren't blacked out. They were wide open, terrified, and their faces weren't smiling anymore. Mia clutched Josh's arm. That's us right now." Before Josh could speak, the floor beneath them groaned, then breathed. The boards bent inward as though something beneath the house was alive, pressing upward. Then from upstairs came the sound of dragging, something heavy. Then thuds, 1, 2, 3, down the steps. Tyler's body lay at the bottom, eyes glassy, mouth open. But his face was wrong, painted pale white, like a porcelain mask, Mia screamed. Eric stumbled backward into the hallway, colliding with a tall shadow that hadn't been there before. The figure from before, long, thin, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, stepped forward, dragging a cracked jack-o'-lantern by the stem. The whisper returned, closer, clearer. "You came back to finish the game." Josh backed against the wall. "We've never been here."
"We don't know you."
The figure tilted its head. "You knew me when you were children. You promised you'd come back next Halloween, but you forgot." The jack-o'-lantern began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter, until it cast faces on the walls. Children's faces, dozens of them. All frozen mid-scream, the figure raised its hand. The skin on its wrist peeled slightly, and beneath it, Josh saw something familiar, his own bracelet. "The one he lost when he was 9, Mia whispered. "Josh." "That thing is you." The walls began to twist, the air bending like heat. The photos flashed, 1995, 2005, 2015, 2025, each showing the same children aging, dying, returning. Josh's voice shook. "We're dead." The figure knelt in front of him, its cracked mask splitting with a slow smile. "No," it whispered. "You're remembered." The house shuddered once, the lights went out, and the whisper faded into silence. When morning came, the Turner house was empty again, windows boarded, door locked. Only one thing remained, a single pumpkin glowing faintly on the porch, carved with 4 familiar faces. That Halloween, no one on Willow Lane opened their doors. But those who walked by swore they heard children laughing softly from inside the Turner house. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough, you can still hear them playing. Every October, the small town of Maple Hollow transformed into a postcard, pumpkins on porches, kids running in plastic masks, and fog rolling down the empty streets like slow gray smoke. But this year, something new appeared at the edge of town. It was a costume shop that nobody remembered seeing before, a narrow building squeezed between the old bakery and a boarded-up bookstore. The sign above the door was handwritten in faded gold, "Masquerade, costumes for every soul." Lena spotted it while walking home from work. The windows were filled with mannequins wearing masks so realistic they almost seemed to breathe. Some smiled, others frowned, and one, right in the center, had no mouth at all. Inside, the store smelled of dust and cinnamon. The lighting was dim, and racks of vintage costumes stretched into the shadows. A small bell rang behind her. An old woman appeared at the counter, her face hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask. "Welcome, dear," she said softly. "Looking for something special?" Lena hesitated. "Just browsing." The woman tilted her head. "Every costume here chooses its owner." Lena forced a polite smile and walked deeper into the shop. The costumes looked hand-stitched, old-fashioned, detailed down to every thread. She ran her fingers across a black velvet cloak, a pair of feathered wings, a clown suit painted in dried crimson. Then she saw it, a red masquerade mask sitting on a shelf, untouched by dust. It seemed to glow faintly, like the color moved beneath the surface. When she picked it up, it felt warm. "Almost alive," the shopkeeper's voice echoed behind her. "Ah, that one's been waiting a long time." Lena blinked. "How much?" The woman smiled beneath her mask. "No charge. Just promise to wear it tonight." Lena laughed uneasily. "Seriously?" The woman leaned closer. "Every soul deserves one night to be seen for what it truly is." Lena hesitated, but something about the mask felt magnetic, like it was meant for her. She thanked the woman, took the mask, and stepped outside. When she turned back to look at the store, it was gone. The space between the bakery and bookstore was empty brick wall. No door, no windows. No sign, just fog. That night, Lena dressed for the Halloween party at her friend's house. She put on a black dress, curled her hair, and finally slipped on the red mask. It fit perfectly, too perfectly. As she adjusted the strap, the edges seemed to tighten, molding to her skin. She laughed it off, grabbed her bag, and left. The party was loud, crowded, and full of flashing lights. Everyone complimented her mask. "It looks so real," someone said. "It's like it's part of your face." Lena smiled, but after an hour the room started to spin. Her skin itched beneath the mask. When she tried to lift it off, it didn't move. Her laughter died. She tugged harder. Nothing. It was stuck. She stumbled into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The mask had fused to her skin. The edges weren't seams anymore. They were veins. Her reflection blinked a second too late. The lips of the mask began to move on their own. A voice, not hers, whispered, "Now they can finally see you." Lena screamed. People outside the bathroom heard it, but when they broke down the door, the room was empty. Only the mask lay on the floor, clean and new, as if it had never been worn. By morning, the red mask was back in the shop window of Masquerade, and the store, gone again. Days later, a new flyer appeared taped to the bakery's door. In elegant script, it read, "Masquerade, one night only. Costumes that fit perfectly." This time, 3 other people were seen walking inside. None of them were ever seen again. But every Halloween night, Maple Hollow fills with laughter, faint, echoing, just beyond the fog. And if you look closely, you can still see the shop appear at the edge of town, glowing faintly red. The mannequins in the window. They're smiling, and one of them looks exactly like Lena. On Halloween night 2012, the radio station in Pine Brook County aired its final show. Nobody knew it was final until the morning after. Back then, the town still loved old analog things, tape decks, jukeboxes, and a tiny local station called WZPX 103.6 FM, run by a single night host named Don Avery. He'd been on air for 20 years. Calm voice, small town charm. Every Halloween, he did the same tradition, the midnight broadcast, a 3-hour show filled with ghost stories, listener calls, and eerie sound effects that made kids sneak out of bed to listen. That year, though something was different, at 11:59 p.m., the emergency broadcast tone played for several seconds. Long, distorted, wrong. Then Don's voice came through, lower than usual, almost whispering, "Good evening." To those who are still awake, tonight's broadcast isn't for everyone. Only those who are listening right now will understand what's coming. People thought it was a prank, until the phone lines started ringing. Callers said strange things. Shadows moving through their houses, whispering voices behind static, clocks stopping at exactly midnight. One man, a local farmer, claimed someone was standing outside his barn, wearing headphones, repeating Don's words in sync with the radio. Don's laugh was soft, uneasy. "That's a good story, friend," he said. "But you should let them in now. They've been waiting a long time." The line went dead. Listeners called the police. But by the time an officer arrived at the radio station, WZPX was silent. The door was locked from the inside. Don Avery's chair was still warm, and the microphone was still recording. What it captured after 12:03 a.m. was later described by experts as human voices layered with mechanical distortion. But some locals swear it wasn't distortion at all. It was whispering. Hundreds of voices repeating the same thing. Keep listening. The next morning, WZPX was officially shut down. The building was abandoned, the tower dismantled, and the tapes sealed by the county sheriff. But every Halloween since, at exactly midnight, 103.6 FM comes alive again, only in Pine Brook. No DJs, no ads, no music, just static, and a voice that says, "Good evening, listeners. This broadcast is for you." In 2024, a podcast team from Chicago decided to investigate the Pine Brook broadcast legend. They called themselves the Unheard Files. 3 of them, Jess, Cole, and Dana, drove down to the old station ruins 2 nights before Halloween. The building still stood, half-eaten by weeds, its windows black and broken. Cole laughed as he set up his recorder. "Let's make this quick. Viral ghost radio content, easy views." Jess rolled her eyes. "Just don't mock the place on air. Locals say it's cursed. Inside, the walls were covered in faded soundproof foam. The air smelled of rust and mold, but the old on-air light above the booth was intact, dusty, yet somehow faintly glowing. Dana turned on the power from their generator. Static crackled through their portable radio. The dial flickered past empty frequencies until 103.6 came alive. "Good evening, listeners." Jess froze. That's live." Cole checked his watch. 11:59 p.m. The voice continued, soft and warm. "Welcome back. We've been waiting for new stories. Cole laughed nervously. It's probably some copycat streamer. Watch, they'll play a jump scare. The static deepened. Tonight's story is about 3 curious souls who came to listen, but stayed to speak, Dana whispered. He's talking about us. Jess adjusted the antenna. No signal tower here. This shouldn't be possible. The static split into 3 distinct voices, recorded, overlapping, each one identical to their own. Jess! Cole! Dana! They turned off the radio. The voices didn't stop. They were coming from the building itself, through the vents, the walls, the floorboards. The on-air light flickered brighter. The microphone clicked on by itself. Then Don Avery's old voice came through the studio speakers. You're on the air now. Say hello to the listeners. Cole backed toward the door, but it had vanished, replaced by a blank concrete wall. Static filled the room, building to a roar. Dana screamed, and the sound was pulled straight into the mic like it was eaten. Then silence. The next morning, locals driving by saw the light in the booth still glowing red. The same 3 voices came through 103.6 FM that night, calmly introducing themselves as the new hosts of the midnight broadcast. Good evening, listeners. We'll be here again next Halloween, waiting for you to tune in. Halloween night 2019. 10-year-old Emily Carter was trick-or-treating with her dad. The air was sharp with cold, the streetlights warm and buzzing. Kids in costumes laughed. Candy wrappers crackled, and carved pumpkins flickered behind every fence. But one house at the end of Birch Street didn't look like the others. No decorations. No lights, no porch pumpkins. Just a dim lantern hanging by the door, swinging slowly in the wind. Emily tugged on her dad's sleeve. We didn't go there last year, her dad frowned. Pretty sure nobody lives there, kiddo. But as they turned to leave, the front door creaked open. A tall woman in a black dress stepped out, holding a paper bag. Wait, she said softly. Her voice was strange, gentle, like someone remembering how to speak. Don't skip this house. Every child deserves a treat. Emily froze. The woman smiled faintly, though her eyes didn't. Here. She handed the bag to Emily. For you only. Emily looked inside. Just one thing, a single round caramel wrapped in clear paper. Say thank you, her dad prompted. Emily nodded. Thank you, ma'am. The woman tilted her head. I used to love when they said that. Before Emily could respond, the door closed. Her dad laughed uneasily. Weird old lady. Come on, one more street and we'll head home. But as they walked away, Emily noticed something odd. The paper bag was heavier than before. When she peeked inside again, it wasn't one caramel anymore. It was full, stuffed with candy that hadn't been there seconds ago. That night, Emily dumped her candy on the floor like every kid does. Her dad went to make cocoa while she sorted her haul. Most of it looked normal. But every candy from the paper bag was wrapped in the same clear plastic. No brand name, no label. She unwrapped one. Inside wasn't caramel. It looked like sugar glass, translucent, faintly pulsing with light. And when she held it up to her ear, she heard something, whispering, a voice soft and childlike. Don't throw me away. Emily dropped it, startled. The candy didn't roll, it twitched. Her dad came back. Everything okay? She forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. But when she turned back to the pile, one candy was gone. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of something rustling near her desk. The trick-or-treat bag was on the floor, open. Inside, the candies had melted into a sticky golden syrup. At first, she thought it was a prank. But when she leaned closer, she realized something impossible. There were tiny shapes moving in the syrup. Little faces. They were mouthing words she couldn't hear. Her dad called from downstairs. Em, breakfast! She blinked, and the shapes were gone. The bag was empty again. That night she couldn't sleep. The whispering started just after midnight, soft, steady, coming from the bag on her desk. We just want to play. Emily pulled the covers over her head. Stop, she whispered. We remember you. The whispering turned to crying. Then laughter, then tapping. Something was moving inside the bag, pressing against the paper like hands. Small hands, Emily screamed. Her dad ran in, turned on the light. Nothing there. Just an empty trick-or-treat bag. He sighed. No more scary videos before bed, okay? But when he left, Emily noticed something written on the inside of the bag in syrupy letters. "Thank you for letting us in." By the next morning, Emily was gone. The front door was wide open, candy wrappers scattered across the porch. Police searched for weeks. No sign, no leads. Her father told investigators about the woman, the house, the strange candy. But when they checked Birch Street, there was no house at the end, just a vacant lot full of weeds. Years later, trick-or-treaters in Maple Hollow began finding brown paper bags among their candy, each one containing a single glowing caramel. Some kids said they heard faint giggles when they opened them. Others said the candy whispered their names, and once on Halloween night, a parent swore they saw a little girl in a black costume standing by the trees holding a paper bag. When he called out, she smiled and said, "Don't skip this house." In the small town of Ashwood, Halloween wasn't just a holiday, it was a ritual. Every October, people came from miles away to visit Miller's Pumpkin Patch, a family farm known for its perfect orange pumpkins and endless corn maze. But that year, something was different. The pumpkins were too big, too round, too human-looking. Eleanor Miller, the farmer's wife, said they'd started growing that way on their own. "Freak season," she told the newspaper. Maybe something in the soil, but locals whispered a different story. They said the soil had turned dark after the old well was dug up last spring, that the ground smelled like iron and rot, that at night people could hear whispering between the rows. Jake Palmer, a college photography student, came to document it for his blog. He wanted the creepiest pumpkin patch in America story to go viral. When he arrived, the place looked abandoned. The scarecrow was gone. The sign over the gate, "Miller's Patch, pick your own," hung crooked. He called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" No answer. Then he heard it. The faint creak of a swing from somewhere deeper in the field. The air smelled like damp earth and sweet decay. He raised his camera and started filming. Rows of pumpkins stretched endlessly, glowing under the pale moonlight. But as he zoomed in, he noticed something strange. Every pumpkin had a face. Not carved, grown. The ridges formed eyes, the stems twisted into mouths frozen mid-scream. Jake whispered, "Jesus." He took a step back and tripped over something soft. It was a scarecrow, face down in the mud. But when he rolled it over, the stuffing wasn't straw. It was pumpkin flesh, wet and pulsing. Then a low voice rose from the field. "No picking after midnight." Jake froze. "Who's there?" The voice came again, closer now. "They're not ready yet." A figure stepped out from between the rows, tall, wrapped in burlap, a pumpkin for a head. The eyes burned faint orange from within. Jake raised his flashlight. "Nice costume, man. You almost got me." The thing tilted its head. The carved mouth widened. "Costume?" It reached out. The fingers were roots, wet, tangled, dripping with soil. Jake dropped his camera and ran. He didn't look back. But as he stumbled toward the road, he heard something behind him. Heavy footsteps, soft dragging sounds, and the faint rustle of vines following through the dirt. When he reached his car, he slammed the door, gasping. His headlights flicked on, and for a moment, he saw the entire field moving, thousands of pumpkins shifting, turning toward him like faces waking up. The next morning, Sheriff Dalton found Jake's car abandoned by the fence. The engine was still running, the driver's door open. Camera smashed into the dirt. No sign of Jake. The only thing left was a single photo on the camera's memory card, a blurred image of the pumpkin-headed figure standing over him, the eyes glowing brighter than fire. By afternoon, the Miller farm was sealed off. Reporters tried to get in, but the family refused to speak. That night, a storm rolled in. Lightning flashed across the fields, and people driving by swore they saw silhouettes moving between the rows. Dozens of them, all wearing pumpkin heads. Some said they looked like townsfolk who'd gone missing over the years. Eleanor Miller was found the next morning, sitting on her porch in the rain, mumbling over and over, "He harvests what the soil remembers." When police searched the pumpkin patch, they found something beneath the roots, human remains intertwined with vines. The pumpkins had grown through them. One in particular caught the sheriff's attention. A massive pumpkin in the center of the field, its surface marked with something carved deep into the flesh. J. Palmer. That night, the town's power flickered. For a brief moment, everyone's televisions turned to static, then showed a live feed, Jake's camera angle. Shaky, low to the ground. In the background, a voice whispered, "No picking after midnight." Then the screen went black. Weeks later, when Miller's farm was finally bulldozed, the workers found the vines had spread under the entire town, wrapping around pipes, fences, even foundations. And every Halloween since, the pumpkins grow back, always in the same spot, always shaped like faces. If you listen close enough on a windy night, you can hear the creak of the swing behind the fields, and a low voice humming through the rows. It's harvest time again. Ridge Hollow was the kind of town that disappeared after dark. Just fields, barns, and a single main road leading nowhere. But in late October of 2024, something strange began happening out on the Baxter pumpkin fields every night. At exactly 12:13 a.m., the pumpkins started to glow, not with candles or lanterns, but from inside, pulsing like slow heartbeats under the soil. At first, everyone thought it was a viral prank. Teenagers sneaking out with LEDs or hidden speakers. But the glow was too deep, too steady, and too far across the acres for any normal setup. And when a few locals went to check, they came back pale, silent, and refused to talk about what they'd seen. Samir Dawson, a part-time reporter from the county paper, decided to investigate. He'd grown up near Ridge Hollow, and he didn't believe in small-town ghost stories. On October 30th, he parked his truck by the fence and waited with his camera ready. Midnight passed. Silence. Then, the ground began to hum. It wasn't loud, just a low vibration that you could feel more than hear. The pumpkins in the nearest rows trembled, then one lit up. Then another. Then 100. A river of orange light rolled through the field, stretching into the fog, flickering like fireflies breathing in sync. Samir whispered into his recorder. Time, 12:14 a.m. Lights appear organic. Heat signatures detected on thermal lens. No visible source. The pumpkins weren't carved, but inside each glow something moved. Shapes, shadows, faces. He stepped over the fence and into the rows. The dirt was warm under his boots. Each time he took a step, the lights around him brightened, as if following him. Then came the smell. Not rot, not earth. Something metallic, like blood and electricity. He raised his camera to take a photo and froze. Through his lens, he saw figures standing between the pumpkins. Dozens of them. Tall, still, their faces hidden under burlap sacks. He blinked, and they were gone. But when he looked down, the nearest pumpkin had changed. A mouth had formed. A jagged, stretched grin carved itself across the skin, from the inside out. Samir stumbled back, nearly falling. His flashlight flickered. From somewhere in the fog, a whisper crawled through the air. "Don't let the lights go out." Then the pumpkins went dark. When Samir woke, it was daylight. His camera lay shattered beside him. His truck was gone. His watch had stopped at 12:16 a.m. He stumbled back to town, confused, covered in dirt and ash. The sheriff found him wandering the main road. When asked what happened, Samir could only say one thing. They weren't pumpkins anymore. He was admitted to the hospital for exhaustion. But that night something impossible happened again. From his window, Samir saw the glow. Miles away, the Baxter fields burning orange beneath the horizon. And then, a second glow. In the opposite direction, another field had come alive. By morning, Ridge Hollow's electricity grid had failed. The entire town flickered with orange light, faint but constant, like it was being powered by something underground. The mayor ordered the fields burned. Fire crews arrived. They torched the soil until it was black and smoking. But the next night, the lights came back, stronger. A farmer down the road, old Mr. Healy, claimed the glow spread under his land. That when he cut into one of the new pumpkins, it was full of liquid light. He said it whispered his name. When they found his body the next morning, he'd been burned from the inside, his chest cavity glowing faintly through the skin. Samir returned to the fields one last time, carrying only his recorder. He stood where the first light had appeared. The soil was cracked, pulsing faintly beneath his feet. He whispered, "What are you?" The field answered. The lights came on one by one, surrounding him in perfect circles. Pumpkins split open like mouths, glowing brighter than fire. Through the hum, he heard voices, not loud, but layered, hundreds of them. We were planted here. We grew from what you buried. Now we feed the roots. Samir dropped the recorder and tried to run, but the vines were already around his legs, wrapping, pulling, dragging him down. The last thing he saw before the light swallowed him was the reflection of himself in a pumpkin's glossy surface, smiling. Though he wasn't. The next morning, the entire Baxter property was gone. Just a field of ash, perfectly circular, still warm to the touch. But that night, Ridge Hollow lit up again. Not from the fields this time, but from the windows of every house. Each window glowed faint orange, as if something alive burned behind the glass. Locals say you can still see the light moving slowly across the horizon, drifting from one field to another, one town to the next. And when the glow reaches your street, you'll hear a whisper outside your door, "Don't let the lights go out." A week after the Baxter pumpkin fields burned, the town of Dead Hollow started to change. No one noticed at first. The glow on the horizon looked like a sunset that refused to die, a faint orange smear that hung low and steady, even past midnight. Then came the hum, every night at 12:13 a.m., the same time the Baxter pumpkins used to light up. People heard a faint vibration in the air, like electricity running through the ground. The local preacher called it the voice of the buried. Teenagers called it the Halloween hum. But the older folks, they just closed their curtains. Martha Langley, who lived on the edge of Dead Hollow Road, was the first to see the lights appear in people. She woke up one night to her husband standing by the window. He wasn't moving, just staring outside, his reflection shining faintly orange in the glass. "Marlon?" she whispered. He turned slowly, and for a moment she thought he was holding a lantern. But he wasn't. The light was coming from inside his chest, a warm, pulsing glow through his ribs, as if a candle was flickering beneath his skin. Then he smiled, a long, strained, unnatural smile. "Martha," he said softly, "you don't have to be afraid anymore." "It's beautiful here," she screamed. But when the neighbors came, Marlon was gone. Just a burnt patch on the floorboards and the smell of wet soil in the air. By morning, there were 6 more reports. People found wandering the woods, glowing faintly under their skin. Eyes dimly orange, veins lit like old wires. They said they could hear something whispering through them, like wind in a pipe. One man walked into the sheriff's office and placed a small pumpkin on the desk. It was cold, but it glowed faintly from the inside. When the sheriff asked where he got it, the man replied, "They grow in us now." Then he collapsed, and his body cracked open like dry clay, the light spilling out like liquid fire before fading to nothing. The next few nights, Dead Hollow lost power. Streetlights flickered. Radios filled with static. Phones picked up faint humming sounds even when turned off. And through it all, that orange glow crept closer, no longer just on the horizon, but seeping into windows, mirrors, even puddles. Sheriff Dean tried to evacuate the town, but the roads were blocked. Thick vines had grown overnight across the highway, pulsing faintly with light inside. He and his deputy Claire took refuge in the old church. It was cold, dark, silent, until the organ began to play by itself. A low, trembling note filled the air. The stained glass windows flickered with orange light, and the crucifix above the altar began to drip wax. Claire whispered, "It's coming from underground." Before Dean could respond, the floorboards cracked open, and a faint hand reached out, made not of flesh, but vines glowing like embers. He shot it. The light died, but the church didn't go dark, because Claire was glowing now. Her veins shimmered faintly beneath her skin. Her eyes dimmed to soft amber. "Dean," she said, smiling the same way Marlon had, "you don't have to fight it. It's just the harvest continuing." She reached out her hand. He stepped back. The light spread up her arm, brighter now, until her entire body flared like a human lantern, pure, blinding orange. Then she was gone. Only her outline burned into the church wall. The next morning, the town of Dead Hollow was silent. No birds, no wind, just smoke rising slowly from chimneys that no longer burned. Every window in town glowed faintly from within, not like fire, but like hundreds of tiny lanterns flickering behind closed curtains. The fields around the town began to bloom again. Not pumpkins this time, but hollow egg-like pods filled with liquid light. When scientists came weeks later, they found no bodies, no traces of life, only these. Pods. Each one contained something, curled inside, almost human in shape, and every pod whispered when touched, "We were planted here. We grew from what you buried. Now we light the way."